Welcome to my recording of my Ask Me Anything webinar from April 20, 2023. I recorded this last night. Now, these webinars are a place where attendees, when they register, can submit questions, and then what I do is answer those questions during the session. I answer them live during the session. If you want to attend any of these AMAs, just head over to my website, Dan's Tutorials, and you can sign up there. Now, this is a live recording, so you may see a few fumbles here and there, and also the attendees' voices are a little bit quiet. I'm working on a solution to where I can record their voices. This is all done through Zoom. I know that there is a solution out there. I just haven't enabled it yet or quite got it down pat to where it can record their voices. But I know that there is a solution for it, and I'm working on it. All right, let's get back to why you are here. Let's take a look at my Ask Me Anything session or webinar from April 20, 2023. There we go. Welcome to my AMA for April 20. I have probably about 10, 11 questions. Some came via email and other ones came via the thing. So I'm going to skip by the introduction. This is not necessarily open to the public. I didn't promote it to the public. Everyone here knows who I am, so we can get right down to it. Okay. The first question that I have is how to remove, this is from Betty. Is she here yet? Let's see her. Yeah, she is. So Betty asks, how do you remove, not just hide, an app like TikTok? Or I shouldn't say like TikTok, TikTok. Betty, is this on the iPhone or the iPad? I should have, or the Mac?
I didn't send that, Dan, but you've got a question from Bonnie.
Oh, Bonnie, I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. All right, let's, okay. So Bonnie asked, all right, so basically, I think what she's wondering is, the whole thing is TikTok. People are starting to remove it from their phones and all that, and she is still getting notifications from it and all that. So I'm just going to start with it like a blanket statement. When you have an app that you want to remove, an app that has an account, that doesn't necessarily, when you remove the app, you're not removing all the information about that app, like the account. So what you have to do is you have to actually go into that app, like TikTok, and then remove your account. And by law, they are all supposed to have this. So you can go into Facebook, all of them. You can go and remove your data. This was passed several years ago. So I'm going to go to my MacBook Air here, and I have it pulled up in Safari, TikTok. And basically what I did is I just searched. So Bonnie, if you watch this later on, all you have to do is just search for remove application TikTok or delete an account in TikTok. And this is what you're going to come to, hopefully, or you'll find, is supporttiktok.com. And what I'll do is I will put this in my show notes. I'm trying to keep show notes as well. So if you watch this later on, you'll find a link to this in the on my website. But basically what you have to do is go over to supporttiktok.com and then follow the steps to delete your account. So delete the app if you're on the iPhone and iPad, and on the Mac, what you'll do is you'll delete the account. Once you delete that account, then TikTok no longer has any information about you or anything like that. Now, the last thing that you may want to do is, if you're getting notifications, especially if it's on the Mac, we've all seen it, where when you go to a website, it says, do you want to receive notifications? And if you click yes, what it'll do is when someone says something on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, what you'll do is you'll get a notification for that in the notification center. So the last step that you'll want to do is make sure that you remove any notifications so you don't receive those. On the iPhone and the iPad, it's pretty easy to do. Once you delete that app, it's not going to send you notifications. So you don't really have to do anything with that. But on the Mac, what you need to do is you need to turn off notifications for that particular website. Now, I'm using Safari. So what I need to do is go to Safari's preferences. Now I'm using macOS Ventura, So I'm going to go to Safari's settings. But basically what we need to do is just go to our settings or preferences. And then what you're going to see under websites here is a number of different options here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that under notifications here, you do not have TikTok, the website TikTok. And when you remove it from there, you might not have it in there, but this is how you can remove notifications from specific websites. All you have to do is just go in here, make sure it's removed. And then once you do that, you shouldn't receive any notifications from, that particular service, in this case, TikTok. So remove the app from the iPad and iPhone. It'll automatically remove any notifications, but you still have an account with TikTok. By removing the app, you're not actually removing your account. So then what you have to do is go to TikTok.com, log in, and then once you log in, there's going to be a spot where you can remove that account. And then the last step is just to make sure, you might not have any, but just to make sure under websites and notifications, you've turned off any notifications from TikTok. And once you do those steps, you shouldn't receive any more notifications or anything like that from TikTok. Your account, by law, should be removed, and they will not have any data on you or anything like that. So now I say they shouldn't, but we all know how that goes with some of these social networks. But that's what's supposed to happen. Delete account. So that's how you can get rid of that. Let's take a look at the next question. This one comes from Melissa, and it's not showing on my screen here. Hold on here. Keynote. There we go. Can you make the iPhone default to the numbers keyboard? And what Melissa's talking about is when we enter on the phone, when we enter in a zip code as an example. So if I go to a website and I have to enter in my zip code, in some cases when you do that, what it'll do, let's see if I have that on mine. I'm going to go where I go and create an account here. And let's just go with this one here. I am recording, yes, Ward. Thank you. Yep. So I don't record through Zoom. I record through my own software. So then I can just kind of put it through Final Cut Pro and do those nice little tricks. All right. So with when you sign up for something or fill something out, in some cases, I don't ask for a zip code here, so it's not going to show you. In some cases, when you tap on a field, what you'll see is a nice little number keyboard, 1, 2, big digits. So what she's asking is when I go to a site or when I have to fill out a form, can I have it default to that when there's a number, field like, zip code or something like that? The short answer is no, you can't. This is up to the developer. There is something that you can do. So basically, this is up to the developer. When they develop a website or an app, what they can do with these fields here is they can designate what type of a field it is. And if they designate it as a number field, the iPhone will pick that up and then it'll show the number keyboard. If they designate it as a text field, then it shows the standard QWERTY keyboard. So it's really up to the developer if they do that. Now I know zip codes, they typically won't do that because, in the States here, we have zip codes 49423, but you go to Canada, I don't know how it is in like New Zealand, they have different postal codes and they're going to have alphanumeric numbers or letters in there. So typically zip codes are not, if you want to make them worldwide, you can't just make them numeric because some people will need to type in a alphabetic number or letter in there. So you won't typically see that on zip codes. But so if you want to what I would recommend doing is getting hold of the developer, getting hold of the person that develops the app or the website or whatever, and make a suggestion. And then what they are able to do, if they can, what they're able to do is change that from their end. Where the iPhone will see that and it'll be like, oh, this is a field designated for numbers, and then it'll display the numbers format. So you can't do it by default, but the developer can. You just have to let them know, and they will hopefully take care of that. I know I've done that with, like a local restaurant here, which uses actually an app that is a national app. A little bit different story here, but we've all seen the old websites where it says best if viewed by Chrome, best if viewed by Firefox. Basically Safari was the bastard child over in the corner with a lot of these websites. Well, when everything being on mobile, people don't realize, including some of these developers, or they just use canned responses. When you visit a website on your iPhone or even with a Samsung and you're using Chrome, it is still using WebKit. So it's still using Safari as the engine. So basically those statements don't mean anything at all. Because I'm on an iPhone, I can't use Chrome. I mean, I could use the browser Chrome on my iPhone, but it's still using the engine of Safari. So what I did is I went and emailed the developer and just said, this in this day and age, we really don't need that. Safari's a pretty good browser. And ironically, most people are going to your restaurant on a mobile phone to view your menu. I mean, I said it nicely. And that is all using Safari. Even if they're using Chrome, they're still using Safari as the back end. So you could possibly be scaring people away or, misleading people and this, that, and the other. And within a week, it was off of their website. So point being, contact the developer, let them know. And, if they're listening, they may be able to do something. So, all right, let's continue on to our next question. Do you have a suggestion? Whoops, let's fix that. Do you have a suggestion on keeping up? I thought this one was pretty good from Ward. And basically what he is asking is, how do you keep track of all of the app updates? I mean, we have our apps in the App Store. We download apps that are not in the App Store. How can we keep track of any updates for these? And the way that, there used to be some software out there that did that kind of for you, and there still is, and he brought one up, Mac Updater, and I looked at this, Ward, and I would say this one here is really pretty good. So basically, I'm going to go to my MacBook Air here. I am going to show you Mac Updater here. So this is what he was wondering if this is any good. And I think it still looks good. They're still developing it. And basically with this app, what you are able to do is make sure that all of your apps are updated, including your Mac Store, your Mac App Store apps. Now, it can't update apps from the Mac App Store, but it can tell you if they're outdated, and then you can go and update them. But if you have apps outside of the App Store, and we all have those apps that are outside of the App Store, what this will do is this will make sure that you're keeping them updated. And the way that it works is it just scans your apps and just kind of tells you what the versions are. So I downloaded the free version here. You can download it for free. This is over at corecode.io, and again, I'll put this in the show notes. But basically, what it does, I have it running here. So this is Mac Updater, and you're going to see that I have 3 apps here that need updating. One of them being Zoom. I'm notorious for not updating Zoom. I tell people they should update Zoom before every meeting, but do I do that myself? Nope. So what this app will do is this will tell me what version I have installed, and then it will also tell me what the newest version is. And then from here, what I'm able to do is update it. So I want to update Microsoft Edge. I just click on Update, and we can see it's updating it. And then Microsoft Edge will be updated. Now, again, this won't necessarily work for App Store. It will tell you if they need updating, but when you go and update the app, what it'll do is open up the App Store, and then you update it through the App Store. not a big deal, but you can still kind of see which ones need to be updated. The other thing that you want to be mindful of is you don't necessarily want to update some apps, because sometimes when you update an app, it turns into a paid version, or you're upgrading to a newer version, and then all of a sudden you have to start paying for it. So what this can do is this can also help you with that. So then what you're able to do is prevent, not update a specific app because you don't want to upgrade, you're using an older version of it, working fine for you. You don't need to pay for the subscription or anything like that. What you're able to do is do it with that. You can view all of your outdated apps. You have different settings in here, what you're scanning for. If you want to ignore, and this is where you can ignore apps that you want to prevent from updating. All I would have to do is just go and add it in here, and then it wouldn't scan that app. I can ignore specific updates. Again, maybe an app came out and now that's a paid upgrade. I can ignore that, so then it's not going to notify me to upgrade to that because I don't want to upgrade to it. So, Ward, I think this, and this Mac Updater has been around for a while. I completely forgot about it. But I think this would be a good way to keep up on all of your apps. And probably what I will do is, download this on my, this is on my demo computer, but I will probably download it on my main computer because I have a ton of apps on there. And I don't necessarily keep track of the App Store, but what about all the other ones? And this one will take care of all that for me. So I think Mac Updater would be a good solution for that. There used to be you used to be able to do this through websites as well, but I think this is a good solution. You have any questions on that? Okay. All right. So let's go on to our next question. This one comes from Tom Piper, and he's asking, do I use CleanMyMac or MacWarebytes? So I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, I do use CleanMyMac, but I don't keep it up and running and all that. I don't have it running in the background. MacWarebytes or Malwarebytes, I do not use that at all. That's more of a virus type detection. I don't use that. And I've been on a few different meetings with security experts through Naples and all that, and everyone seems to say the same thing over and over and over. You do not need to have any type of virus detection on a Mac as of yet. They actually cause more problems than what they're worth. So no, I do not use Malwarebytes or MacWarebytes or anything like that. If I was afraid that if I was checking to see if I did have a virus, the only one I would use, we're talking about viruses now, not CleanMyMac, I'll get into that one in a minute. The only one I would use is Malwarebytes. It's in the App Store. And the reason why that's the only one I would use is it comes highly recommended. It's this one here. And being that I'm getting it through the App Store, Apple has to approve it. Not saying that they don't approve bad apps, and they do, because they will approve virus detection apps for the iPhone and iPad, and you absolutely do not need it for an iPhone or iPad. Absolutely do not need it for that. But and they still approve them for that. So it's not saying that Apple is saying this is good, but the nice thing is you can easily delete it. Virus type detection, Norton, all that, are notorious for putting stuff on the back end, and they're very hard to get rid of. When I worked at the Apple Store, that was one of the things that we did at the Genius Bar, is remove virus, because people didn't know how to do it, and you had to go into terminal in some of these cases. And in extreme cases, you had to reinstall the Mac OS because they just put stuff in the back end there. Being that this is in the App Store, it does have to be sandboxed, which means it's in its own little box and it can't really touch anything else. So if I were to put one on my computer, I would do this one, so then I could easily delete it. Now let's talk about CleanMyMac. CleanMyMac is a little bit different. CleanMyMac does more, doesn't do necessarily with virus excuse me, but it does do malware, and it also helps keep your Mac a little cleaner. It'll monitor your trash. We'll just go here to MacPaw. And I am a fan of MacPaw, the developer. They're out of the Ukraine, and they do a nice job with several of their apps. I just put on my main computer, Clean My Drive, so then I can just hit a button and it ejects all of my drives on my computer. I really like that, about 4 drives. And usually what I do is just unplug everything and get those annoying messages. Well, now I can just hit a button and this will go and this is free. So he has a lot of nice little utilities. Well, one of them, CleanMyMac, what this does is this will run stuff in the background. We have malware removal. It will scan through your mail attachments. It'll get rid of system junk, cache files, things like that. Has an uninstaller. So we know that when we remove an app, all we have to do is drag it to the trash. Well, really, that's not uninstalling it. It's uninstalling the application, but it's not uninstalling all the preferences and things like that. This uninstaller will go and find all of those little dependent files and remove those as well. So it's more like a full-blown uninstaller. For those that are familiar with Windows, Windows has an uninstaller. That's basically what this is. So you can use that. It also has Extension Manager and a Space Lens where you can go and view your large files or your old files and then get rid of them easily. So it has a lot of nice, I think it's more of a utility, and it has a lot of nice utilities, not necessarily necessary, but they do come in handy, and you can download it for free to try it out by going to their website. It is in the App Store, Mac App Store, but of course we know we don't have free trials in the Mac App Store, but here you can go and download it for free and see if you like it. So I do use that. If you watch this later, Tom, I do use CleanMyMac. I do have it on my main Mac. Don't use it that often, but it's just nice to have, I guess. Not necessary, but it's nice to have. Any questions on malware or anything like that before we go on to our next question? All right. Oh, Betty says she's been using Mac Updater for a while and works as advertised. So there we go. Thanks, Betty. All right. The next one is, how do I keep iMessages? I love it how people use iMessages, including myself. It's messages, but we all know it as iMessages. In sync on all the devices with the same Apple ID. I've covered this before, but I'll show you again because it's just little things that you have to do on each device. And Phil says another vote for Mac Updater. So there's little things I have to do on each device. So since I'm on my Mac here, let's first take a look at what we have to do on the Mac. Then we'll go to the iPad, and then we'll go to the iPhone. And once you turn all of these on, then everything will stay in sync. On the Mac, I'm using Mac OS Ventura, so I'm going to go to my System Settings. And then we go over to our account here. We want to make sure that all of our devices are signed in with the same iCloud account. That's number one. Of course, we know that, but we have to make sure that that happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Then under iCloud here, come on, you can do it. Let's turn that off, see if it goes there. Does it want to go to iCloud? I don't think it's under here anyway. Okay, so we're just going to go over to Messages. I'll come back to that. I don't think that's really a thing. I don't know why that's not letting me do that. System Settings. iCloud, there we go. Yeah, it's not under here. That's what I thought. So just scrap this. On the iPad and iPhone, we have to go into the Settings app and go into our iCloud to make sure that it is turned on. We don't do that here because it's still using, we have to go into the Messages settings or preferences. So we're using the same iCloud account on all the devices. Now what I do is I go to my Messages settings or preferences if you're using an old version of Mac OS. And then from here, we need to go to iMessage. Apple even uses iMessage. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we enable messages in the cloud. So mine is not enabled, so mine are not going to keep in sync. These messages on the iPhone or on my Mac are not going to go over to iCloud. So I'm going to turn that on. Now it's going to keep everything in sync. At least it's going to on my Mac. It'll keep it into the cloud. So that's the first step. Enable iMessages in cloud. So we have it all set on our Mac. Now what we need to do is go over to the iPad and basically do the same thing. We need to go to our settings. So I'm going to go to settings here. We make sure we're signed in the same iCloud account, which we are. I go to iCloud here, and I want to make sure that messages here is turned on, which it is. So we want to make sure that this is turned on. So we're good there. Then we need to go to our settings for messages. And we want to make sure that iMessage.
It's with Robert. I'm the one that asked this question.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Along with you, I'm on my iPad now. How did you get to where you got to? I just missed.
Okay, yeah. No, we'll start over. So we need to go to our settings. And what I would do is make sure that your iCloud account is the same.
Yeah.
Then we go to iCloud. And you want to go to...
down the list, not iCloud Drive.
Nope. You want to go to Show All here. It doesn't show by default. So you're going to see Show All.
Oh, under the passwords?
Under Photos, iCloud.
I see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And then make sure that Messages is turned on.
Okay, messages. Yeah, messages turned on. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now on the left side, we go over to our Messages over here. So this is the settings for Messages.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that iMessage here is turned on.
Okay. I think I got that.
Okay. And I believe that's all we have to do here. Send and receive. That's not me, right? No. Send and receive is, it's set for your email addresses, your iCloud email addresses, so you're good there. And basically what we have to do is the same thing on the iPhone as we do on the iPad. So on my...
Yeah, and I have a question on this. I had a client today that was setting up a new iPad. I set it up for him, but I couldn't, in the drop down of the accounts, I could only get the iMessage from his email address, which was his Apple ID address. But it didn't give me the opportunity to use a phone number on the iPad.
No, and you're going to see I do not have a phone number on my iPad either.
Okay, so how do you get it from the iPhone?
That's the next. So when I go over to my iPhone here, we'll follow the same steps, and then there's one other thing that we have to do, Barry. All right, let me get cables.
Does he have cellular on his iPad?
No, he does not. But we were within the same network, so you don't need cellular
So-
within the same.
No, I mean on your iPad.
Me?
No.
No.
Barry.
Oh, Barry.
Is he saying he's trying to communicate from his iPad?
No. From the gentleman's iPad, someone's iPad was in the same home network. I could, in the drop down, it wasn't a
Phone number.
It was only the,
Yeah,
Well, we have
It won't if he doesn't have cellular on his iPad.
right, but we can forward messages. That's what we're going to look at next here. So I'm going to go to settings here, and we want to do the same thing. Make sure we're signed into the same iCloud account, and I go to iCloud. I go Show All, and again I make sure that Messages is turned on. Okay, so we're good there. Now we go back over here and we go to Messages, Settings, just like we did before. And we want to make sure that iMessage is turned on. Send and receive are the two email addresses. And then there's one other thing that we need to do here to get it fully working and that is text message forwarding. So what most people do is when they send a text, they text via phone number, right? If I was going to send Barry a text, I would probably ask him for his phone number. That's just how we know how it works from, our StarTech phones and all that. So when it goes to Barry's phone, that's all it does, because it doesn't know what to do after that. It's going to the phone number. So then what you have to do is you have to say, forward this on to my 2 devices. And then what it'll do is it'll forward those text messages over to the iPad and the iPhone.
Yep, thank you. That was what I missed.
Yep.
Forwarding.
I don't know if it, when you're going from an iPhone to an iPhone, I'm not necessarily sure you need that. But you definitely need that if someone is sending from an Android or something like that, because it can't talk with iMessage at all. So I'm pretty sure you definitely need it for that, but I'm not sure you need it for when someone's going iPhone to iPhone. But it's still just a nice thing to have to turn on. Then you don't have to worry about it. So. And then once you get all those set up, it should just work. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, we are going to go to the next question. This one comes from Linda, and she's asks, how can I show my favorites in Safari's start page? So I'm going to go to my MacBook Air here, and I misspelled favorites there. When we open up a new start page, so I'm going to open up a new page, you're going to see that I have my reading list here, and then I also have my favorites. This is what she is missing. This used to show on her start page, her favorites here, and now it's no longer showing. So she went into her preferences, Safari preferences up under here and settings, and tried to find it and just couldn't find where you need to go. Well, basically what you need to do is go to the lower right-hand corner of your start page, and this is where you can customize your start page. When I click on this, I can set what I want to see, and my guess is favorites is turned off. So when I turn this off, you're going to see I no longer have my favorites here. So all you have to do is make sure that that is turned on. If you want it on the top, you can drag this up towards the top, and now my favorites are at the top. Anytime I open up a new start page, my favorites are going to show there. So it's just this little customization tool down in the lower right-hand corner. And you have to view this from a start page itself. So try that, Linda. See if that works for you. All right.
Oh my gosh, that worked. That worked.
There we go.
Thank you.
No problem. How do I test the cord to my MacBook Air to see that it is charging? This is actually a pretty good question because, actually I'm looking, I have a new MacBook Pro M1. It's not new, but it's an M1. And it does have the little green LED light on there. And I love that little green LED light that's on. Let's go to my face cam here, overview, hopefully. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but right down there, there is where it's plugged in the MagSafe. It has a little green light there. That tells me that that thing is charging. On some Macs, if we look, actually, we're going to look at my MacBook Air here. Let's see here. Go down here. USB-C. I can't tell if that thing's charging. It doesn't have this one doesn't have a magnetic. So how can you tell if that thing is charging? I wish they did have the green light on that thing. Well, really unfortunately, the only way that you can really tell if it's charging is by opening up the computer and looking at it. And, I just ran into this the other day. I have a charger by my couch, and it's just USB-C, so I don't have a magnetic charger for my MacBook Pro. So I plugged in the USB-C, and I wasn't sure if my computer was charging. And that's a bummer because you can't really, there's no way that you can tell. On older Macs, you used to have the little sleep thing. The light would kind of dim in and out and all that. Nothing on these new Macs if you're using USB-C. So what I had to do is I plugged in my iPad, and when I plugged it in, I could see that it was charging. So I knew that that charger was working. That's how I did it. I plugged in another device. My iPad is a USB-C, so I was able to go to the upper right-hand corner and see if it was charging. That's about the only way. And unfortunately, if you, I don't have my camera, I'll grab it here. Unfortunately, with the way that USB-C is, it's it's a good thing and a bad thing. I love it how it's just all one thing, but not all cables are the same. If you're using an Apple cable, you're going to be, it's going to be pretty good. But this here is an Insta360 camera, USB-C, and I can tell you that this USB-C cable will not charge it, and it's the cable. So it can depend on different, there are different variables there. So basically plug in another device and see if it is charging. And if your computer does have power, what you can do is just go up to the menu bar, and you're going to see that it has a little plug in there, and that's telling me that it's plugged in, it's not charging, but that's because I got a funky setup here. But normally what you'd see is a lightning bolt here, and then you'd know it was charging. So, but that's about the only way, through another device.
I also recommend the free app Coconut Battery.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one in a while. Let's go to go. Does that tell the status of a battery or something, right?
Yeah, and let's see, I'm launching it on my MacBook Pro right now, and I do have the charging cable plugged in. So it's going to give you more information.
Betty uses this too, she says.
Yeah, it's a guy's a great app. You donate a few bucks to him. I try to put it on every laptop.
Yeah, I forgot about this. Thank you, Steve.
You bet.
There's another one called Fruit Juice that I
Oh.
use. It's excellent. Gives you reminders that you should unplug your laptop and stuff. So
Let's see. You got a lot of fruit juices. So here I go with the battery, right?
yeah,
Fruit juice in the app.
Fruit juice app?
yep.
Not that one. Uh-oh.
Oh. There you are.
This is from Mac Update. Is it still around? Developer website. Uh-oh. I'm not sure if fruit juice is still around. Fruit juice app. Yeah, when I go to fruit juice app, the domain is for sale, so not sure that one's around anymore.
It's really good. I've used it for years.
Similar apps, Coconut. So, yeah. But basically with these, what you're going to be able to do is just test, see what your battery is and all that good stuff. So, all right. Next question: is it safe to use a personal device to access in-flight airline entertainment? I might need some help on this one, but I'll start out with, I read a report, they say stay away from, how you have those chargers in the airport to charge your iPhone right by where you sit and wait for typically what they recommend is stay away from those. They Not necessarily on the iPhone. The iPhone, as long when you plug it in, you're going to get a little alert there, and the iPhone or the iPad will, tell you that something, and all you have to do is just say deny, and you're going to be good. But with Android phones, a lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot, but they're prone to put malware on them, virus on there. And then they just kind of scan your phone or do whatever the malicious stuff that they do. So typically it is recommended that you do not use those chargers. If you're concerned, and these batteries are getting pretty cheap these days, go out and buy a little portable battery, that you plug it in when you get home. And then when you go on a trip, you just take it with you, put it in your overnight bag, backpack, purse, or whatever. They're small these days. And then if your battery goes dead, then all you have to do is just use that. And you're not going to be using, that box there that can possibly do some malicious stuff. So that's typically what you want to do. Also, what you want to do is make sure that you put your iPhone in low power mode. That will do tremendous amount of battery savings. Now, back to the question, though, of in-access airline entertainment. I have flown once in the last 5 years. So I'm not exactly, I know that airline seats have USB chargers and all that. So this is where I'm asking, does anyone else have any information on this? I did not do a lot of research on this.
Dan,
Yeah?
I live in Alaska, so we are not on what's called the road system like you are. We don't have the opportunity to jump in our car and drive state to state unless
Yeah.
you want to take a lot of time. So we fly Alaska Airlines almost exclusively for their wonderful benefits. It used to be that you would download their app in order to listen to music or movies while you were in flight. This has now changed. You use your own device, whether it's your phone, iPad, or Mac, and once they get to a certain altitude, you just open up your Mac or iPad and select what you want. So it is not app-based.
Is it through the network then?
It's through they say it's through the Planes network.
Okay, so you just connecting up via Wi-Fi to their network.
Yes.
You're not plugging it in. Then I'd say you're safe outside of, you're getting on their Wi-Fi, and some people would don't like that. It's like going into a Starbucks. You don't get on their Wi-Fi. I just met a friend of mine at a Starbucks, and we worked for 3 hours there, and I got on their Wi-Fi. He got on his hotspot, kind of thing. So, that's a matter of if you trust Alaska Airlines, if they're going to sniff it, or if somebody else might, what they call sniff it. If you're worried about that, then what you can do is get a VPN, and then you're fine. So, being that you're getting on their Wi-Fi network, you're not plugging anything physically into your device, so that's good right there. All you have to worry about is the Wi-Fi. And if you really wanted to be safe, when you get on their Wi-Fi, just use a VPN. I use ExpressVPN. It's $99 a year. It gets good ratings, and use it when I need to, and it works good. So then they can't get at because it's all in a VPN. Then you don't have anything to worry about.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
I tried to stream a Zoom session on Alaska Airlines, and although they say it's a fast internet and that you should be able to stream, I wasn't able to stream a Zoom session.
No.
It may have just been that plane or my machine, or I don't know, but it didn't work.
That doesn't surprise me. I think some planes are starting to use Starlink, and Starlink is. Cruise ships are starting to use Starlink. It's notorious for any of those moving vessels, let's say, to get a fast internet. And Starlink seems to be the one that is able to solve that issue. So I know some jets are starting to use it. Some airlines are starting to use Starlink, and that might help out with that. But I think that's just the nature of their system that they use, So, All right. Actually, my last one is a tip, and I thought this was a great tip. Actually, Steve will be familiar with this too, because he actually did a presentation on this. Saw it a couple of times, but this one comes from Ruth Ann as well, and I thought I would share this. And this is using emojis for text. And how she came about it was she uses tags for her files, right?
Yes.
And the way that the Finder used to work was if you applied a tag to a file, it would just put a little dot over to the left side. So then when, let's go and apply tag here, you'd be able to see that that had a tag right there. Well, if you look, it doesn't show it there. It puts it over here to the right. I agree with Ruth Ann. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So it used to put it over here to the left of the name, so you could easily see which ones had tags. Well, if you look here, it puts it over to the right. So it puts it away from the name. And I agree with Ruth Ann. It doesn't make sense to me. This, if you go and apply some tags to these, I think it'd be easier if it was over here on the left side. So she came up with a neat little trick, and I think Steve would appreciate this as well. When you rename a file, you can go and rename it, and on top of that, what you're able to do is add an emoji in there. So what she will do is go and add an emoji in there for whatever it could be. So let's just go with a smiley face for now, but it really could be anything. And now you're going to see that I have an emoji there. So she could come up with an emoji for different file types. Am I explaining that right, Ruth Ann? Is that how you?
Yes.
Yep.
And what I did, as you see with your example, you put in the smiley face, and it takes it out of the alpha order. So what I did is I kept my files named so that they would stay in alpha order, but I would put the emoji at the end of the line before the .pdf or whatever.
So you would put it over here.
Yes.
Not doing it. I'll try it again. There we go. So you put it there, and then it keeps it so you could easily see it there as opposed to going all the way over here. And if you have shorter names, it does make it, because as you can see, as I make this wider, those tags are getting further and further away from that name. So with her suggestion here, it keeps it with the name. And you can take this a step further and use this in reminders for your lists. So you can go over here to your lists and, fresh market items. So I'd like, really that should be fresh market items. And I'm going to rename it. And we are going to put in here grocery. Well, let's put a tomato, right? For fresh market items. And now you're going to see that I can get a nice visual indication. So you can take that a step further and use it and anywhere you can put text, all the way down to text replacement. And this is what I have been using, and I only did this from, like say, I saw Steve give a presentation on this. With text replacement, is that under keyboard here? What you can do is type in a phrase, text replacement. So what you can do is you can type in a phrase and it'll replace it with whatever you want. So I could type in DW and it could be Dan Wassink. I could type in DT and it'll put in there Dan's Tutorials. But on top of that, I can put in here SM and it'll put a smiley. I can put in here TU for thumbs up, and it'll put a thumbs up. So if I wanted to put a frown in here, I would go FN and replace it with a frown. And now if I were to send a message here, let's just say, we're talking about something, and I'm like, that's too bad, and I just go FN space. We can see that I automatically put a frown there. And being that I'm signed in with the same iCloud account, this will carry over to my iPad and iPhone. So you can do the same thing. If I go over to my iPad, I can go to Messages here, and I should be able to go FN space, and there's my frown. And I can do the same thing on the iPhone. So you can use text replacements. I actually use this quite a bit in mail. So if someone says, thanks for this, or that was really helpful, or whatever, all I have to do is just reply with a TU thumbs up. Boom. I just sent them a nice little thumbs up, and I'm on my way, kind of thing. So it's a nice, that little trick, Ruth Ann, that you use can be used for so much more than.
And somebody had a question on how to pop up.
Yep, I just saw that. So what that is, let's go back over to my Mac. Essentially, this is the text and emoji. You're going to see emoji symbols here. This is available in any app. So if we go over to the right, you're going to see that I have the keyboard shortcut for it. So in my case here, it's the globe key. What's that? That's the globe key. So I can type the globe key, but what I kind of have my computer configured a little bit different. I have it set as globe or the function key and the E key. So what I will do, if I go over the Air camera here, the function key here, and then I hit the E key, what it'll do is it'll pull up that keyboard. And there's that keyboard. So I'm just hitting function E, and there it is. So if it kind of varies on which computer you're on or which OS you're on. So what you can do is you can go up to Edit and then go to Emoji and Symbols and see what that keyboard shortcut is. Like I said, I modified mine because my function key also is my Zoom key. So I couldn't have that keyboard always showing up whenever I hit my Zoom. So.
What is the globe key?
It's on the newer Macs. If you have an older Mac, you probably won't see it. It's a function key in the far left corner, bottom left corner. So. But it's on the newer Mac, so basically what it can do is I think it can switch keyboards, much like the iPad and iPhone. You can switch keyboards. So.
It's on the M1.
Yeah, is that what it is on the M1s? Okay.
I got it on my M1. Yeah.
And you didn't have it on your other one, probably, right?
No.
Yep.
On my 2015, no.
Yep. So newer ones, but the function, I think the function E command will do it as well. So. All right, Tom, I see that is all I have for the questions. So, Tom, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Dan. My wife and I just recently upgraded to iPhone 14s from 11s.
Okay.
And, it was really seamless. Put the old phone next to the new phone, transferred the SIM card, and it said, do what it does. And what it does is it makes you sign into all of the apps on the new phone. You sort of go through the process. They're all loaded, and you're loading them in. And then I was looking up some passwords, and I got an automatic response to say that one of my wife's old accounts on an old email was compromised. I should do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't access that anymore. We can't access that app anymore. Is that something that I have to go fix? Like, I got an email last week from the business, and I've been retired for 7 years. I can't get at that account anymore. So I just think all of the iPhones, we've always transferred, ever since we've ever had an iPhone.
Right.
So all that information's there, and now it seems that Apple is searching the dark web or searching for old things. we can't access those old accounts and we haven't used them for years. Should we be worried about this?
No, basically what you'll want to do, I'll turn this into a two-stage thing here. The reason why Apple is telling you that is because in your passwords, which is under your settings app on the iPhone, there is a spot where you have security recommendations, and you're going to say I have quite a few, 380. Yikes. But basically what they are doing is they're looking at all of your passwords here, and they are going to a website, and I believe they might even use this website, Pwn2Own. They might use this one. This is a well-known, oops, Pwn. Oh, no.
Isn't it I've been pwned?
I've been pwned. Yes, thank you. I've been pwned. Basically, what you can do is type in your email address here, and then what it'll do is it'll tell you wherever that email address where there's been a breach. And this could be, passwords or whatever. So the idea here is if that password or that account has been breached, what you want to do is you want to make sure that none of your other accounts are using that same password, because that's basically what they're doing. When they will, a lot of people will use the same password on multiple accounts, username and password. So if I know your username and password for this account, I might be able to get into all of your other accounts as well. So that's why they recommend that you have different passwords on there. So what Apple is doing is they are going through your passwords here, and then they're comparing it to a database. And like I say, it might even be Have I Been Pwned, but they're comparing it, or maybe they have their own now. But they are comparing it to a database and seeing if any of these are listed on there. And if they are listed on there, what they're saying is you should go and change it. Now, in your case, you can't go and change it. So what you can do in order to stop getting that alert is go and find it in this list here. And once you find it, you just go and swipe to the left and you can delete it. And then it's no longer storing that password. The big thing is just make sure that, none of your other accounts are using that same password. If it's listed in that site, then you want to make sure that it's not using that same password. So.
Yeah, this is really old stuff, and I find now that any opportunity that I have for the two-factor authentication, I just use it all the time, and use the Face ID when I do things.
Yep.
And so these breaches are a potential thing, and not necessarily an actual thing.
Right. And, you can see with mine, I've got 380, and the same kind of thing with you. A lot of these are old accounts that I have no longer access to, and I dare say I was a 1Password user for years, and now I use iCloud exclusively. Same kind of thing, though. It's nothing against 1Password. It's just more simple for me. But either way, any of my newer accounts, anything that is of importance, has its own password. I've got thousands of passwords. So these 380, yes, I should go through and but I can, for the most part, I'm fairly confident that any of those they're not going to be able to get into any of my other ones, because anything that is important is now using an exclusive password. So it really doesn't matter per se. Not saying that I shouldn't. I should go in there and try to change it, but yeah. All right. Ed, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, a little bit off topic. You said that you were going to put notes, you're taking notes for this, and you put it somewhere. Where on the website for members would it be?
It's going to be on the event page. So where you go and watch this video, I'll have this video up and running tomorrow. And on that same page, once you're logged in, you'll be able to see, I hide the show notes, and you'll be able to, if you're logged in, you'll be able to see all this. So I'm keeping all of these web pages open and all that, so I can go back and, make sure I put all these in there. I'm trying to figure out a good system. This is relatively new for me, but
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
yep. All right. Let's see here. I'm looking at the note or at the chat here. How do I move my husband's files from our old MacBook Pro to the new one? I would say, so someone, Marcy got a new computer and she wants to move the old files to the new one. I would say the easiest way is the old-fashioned sneaker net, sneaker net being like a hard drive. Just get an external hard drive, copy all the old files onto that hard drive, and then plug that hard drive into the new computer and copy them onto there. That's how I would do it. And hard drives are inexpensive these days, so.
Okay.
You wouldn't use Migration Assistant?
You could use Migration Assistant. That'll move everything over. What Steve is talking about is in the Utilities folder. Are you just wanting to move files or like applications and everything, Marcy?
Applications and files.
Oh, okay. So Steve, thank you. In your Utilities folder of your Applications folder, so this is in the Applications folder, there is something that is called Migration Assistant. And with Migration Assistant, you just follow the steps of what you need to do. But with Migration Assistant, what it'll do is it'll move not only your files over, but all of the applications and everything else. So it's like moving the computer over itself. So that's
I
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Looking at the chat here again. Well, take an archive, but I'm concerned because I don't. Okay, this is about email from Brad. Don't know where these messages are stored. This is with mail. So on the Mac, when he archives a message, he's not sure where it is stored. Brad, is this what is this a Gmail account or is this a Apple account?
Yes, mostly Gmail.
Gmail? Okay, so what Gmail does is it archives everything, and I'm going to switch my computer here in a minute. And essentially what it does is it puts it into, Gmail works a little bit different, but basically what it does is it puts it into an archive folder. So all of your emails are going to be in that archive folder. So you don't really, you can just search for it anytime that you're done reading an email or whatever. Gmail, I think they call it labels. They label it, but for the most part, that's where it's putting them, and it's this folder here. So you're probably going to have thousands upon thousands of emails in there. And then all you have to do is just search for a particular email. I used to use a lot more folder hierarchy kind of thing, but I'm getting like the new kids on the block where I search for everything and just have one giant mailbox with all of my mail, and it seems to be working pretty good.
Yes, I have a lot stored on my Mac. I think over 300 folders.
Oof.
But it's a long time searching. So thank you.
Yep. All right. Does 1Password do better or worse than macOS password checking? I think they all use the same kind of system. I mean, maybe Apple uses their own now, but there are services out there that go and check all of this stuff out. So it may do better. I have no idea, but either way, I think they both do a good job, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other. Well, 1Password has. Oh, this is a great segue, Jerry, to 1Password. So what 1Password does, iCloud keychain password management is great, but at managing your passwords, but that's all it does. It doesn't really do a whole lot more. 1Password can manage so much more, and you can share vaults with people, so you can share passwords with people, only specific passwords with people. There's just a lot more that it can do. So what the Saginaw and Midland Apple Users Group, and I'll have this in the show notes, the Saginaw and Apple Midland Users Groups over here in Michigan have been, Betty has been prudent and working with 1Password for over a year now, from what I understand, and she is getting them to do a presentation for their group. And Jerry and Dale and Betty have extended the invitation to all of my members too. So you can actually go to that presentation and hear 1Password. If you're curious of what 1Password can do for you, this is going to be a perfect opportunity. There is a link in the chat for this Zoom call, but like I said, I'll have a link for it on the website as well, so you can look for that tomorrow. But if you're curious what 1Password can do and what the difference is, this is coming straight from the developers of 1Password. So this thing's going to be pretty good, and they don't normally do this. So, but Betty was pretty persistent on them, and she got them, and they're going to give an hour and a half. Is that what you said, roughly, Jerry?
Yes.
Yeah.
It should be about that time.
Yeah. So everyone here is invited. So take a look at that if you're interested with that. So
Dan,
yeah.
I just put a link in the chat that goes to an Apple News article yesterday, and I think everybody should read it. It's about how people are having their phones stolen because somebody's watching for their code.
Yeah.
And it talks about using a third party password application over the keychain.
Yep.
Because once they have your phone, they've got all your passwords in there too.
So, and I'll include this as well. This actually came from Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal. It's a few months old, but she kind of hashed it up, trying to get Apple to do something about it. But this is about 2 or 3 months old, and it's happening in the bigger cities. It's not that widespread, but it's a very simple hack. And basically what people are doing, you go to a bar, and I'll just pick on New York City, but you go to a bar, and I'm using my phone, and I type in my code. Mine's a 4-digit code. I'm the worst, I'm the perfect example of what people shouldn't be doing. I have a 4-digit code, and they watch that, me type in my code, and then they could have teams of people watching. And then what happens is if I put my phone on the table, which I do quite a bit when we're at a bar or whatever, I just put it on the table like a lot of people do, they'll come by and swipe it. Okay, well, you're thinking, well, they can't get in it. Well, yes, they can, because they just got your 4-digit code. Once they type in that 4-digit code, they'll go and change your iCloud password, so then you can't turn it off. You are now locked out of your own iPhone. And being that they know what your passcode is, the passcode can get you into anything except for 1Password. That's what Betty's talking about.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're using iCloud keychain with me, like I say, I'm a perfect example of what could happen. They could take my phone, they could go in there, get in my bank account, all that, because all they need is that 4-digit code. Then they could use their Face ID and whatever. Now, if you have 1Password, there's still another part of the authentication that needs it, so they still won't be able to get into your bank accounts and all that, because that 1Password is stopping it. So that's basically what's kind of happening.
I have a friend.
There's a brand new article from Joanna Stern today.
Oh, I saw that.
It's a very important one. So it's not just about the pass key that you mentioned. It's about the recovery key.
Yes.
You're grabbing. And also, there's a workaround around that. So you can actually have 2 codes on your iPhone or iPad. So they might get the main one, but they won't necessarily get the second one. And so she goes through a little bit of a workaround for right now, but she's pointing out again, this is an Apple problem.
Right.
And you're never going to get those pictures that you loved again. They're going to be gone. There's guys who are willing to give thousands and thousands of dollars for those memories, but they're gone.
And this is an organization. They trace some of them back down to an organization over in Minneapolis, but they're doing this over in New York in their original article. So it's like this is a network of people doing this. So I'll include these articles. I see Barry put it in there and Betty. I'll include these articles as well. But the main thing for right now, what you can do is when you're out in the public, always use biometric. So use your fingerprint, use your Face ID. If you do that, there's no way that they could steal your phone, but they're not going to be able to get in it. So when you're in public, if you use biometric, you have nothing to worry about. But as soon as you put in that code, somebody could be watching you, and then it can go from there. So, right?
And I have a friend who doesn't want to bother with the code.
Oh, I've had that. Yep.
Yeah. And I said, that is absolutely idiotic.
Yeah. Yep.
I
The same.
I don't want to put that in all the time.
So when is that meeting, Betty? May 10,
May
I see.
10.
So May
Right,
10,
so-
7 p.m. Eastern time. And like I said, everybody here is invited. I'll put all this on the webpage. It'll be there tomorrow. Take a look at that. I don't know if they'll cover that, but are they out of, did you?
They are going, he's from the UK.
UK?
So he's going to be starting at midnight.
Wow.
So be kind to him.
He
Right.
said he's willing to take answers and
Questions, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Next week, I am going to be talking about mastering Safari on the iPad and iPhone. Last week, I talked about it on the Mac. So this week, we're going to be looking at it on the iPad and iPhone, just different tips on how we can get the most out of Safari. So that's going to be next week, April 27. And outside of that, I want to thank
Dan?
everyone. Yeah.
Tell everybody to save the chat because there's some good things in there from Steve, plus the 2 articles.
Yeah, well, yes. So everyone, if you want to save the chat, you can't do that if you're on an iPhone or an iPad, but save the chat. And what I will do is I'm going to save it myself, of course, and then I better make sure. I'm going to double check that I save this because I want to take all these links, save chat.
I put in a couple of Amazon links to USB-C charging cables.
Oh,
that have
okay.
digital readouts
Okay.
on the plugs themselves. So
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
of the charge of the battery. And the 2
Nice.
examples I gave are just 2 of many because when you do a search, you're going to find a lot of
Right.
these types of cables of different lengths, different price ranges, etc. But those 2 at least give you a visual example.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great. I never thought about that. So thank you.
Yeah. Also, just so you know, for somebody that doesn't want to get those cables or not using USB-C, the battery indicator in the menu bar, when you have your MacBook plugged in, is going to show you the percentage.
Right. Are you there? I think we might have lost him.
We lost him.
Okay, until he comes back, I missed a question from Dale. He asked, when you export an item to PDF, where does it export it to? And I'm assuming you're talking about the iPad and iPhone, Dale?
Yes, on the iPad.
On the iPad. So the way that you export a PDF on the iPad is you basically just print it. So we have to go to an app that you can print. I can't print from here, I don't think. Nope. I can't print from the Messages app. So let's go to my Notes app. And let's say I wanted to export this out as a PDF. Now, in some apps will have an export as PDF and all that, but we all know that with the Mac, if I go to print, what we are able to do is save it as a PDF. Well, we can basically do the same thing on the iPad and iPhone. It's kind of a little hidden thing. So in order to do that, we go and print. So I'm going to print here. And the way that we do that is going to the share icon. And then you're going to see print. Now I do have save to files, but the save to files doesn't necessarily save it as a PDF. It might save it as a text file. In the Notes app, it might save it as a text file. I want a PDF like I do with the Mac. So what I do is I go to print. And when you go to print, you're going to see we have a little share icon in the upper right-hand corner. So this works with any app that you can print with. You tap on there. And now when I save it to files, this is where it's going to ask me where do I want to save it. I'm just going to save it to my desktop here. And what it'll do is it'll save this as a PDF because it's going through the print. So I'm going to save this. Saved it to my desktop. So let's go over to my Files app here. And we're going to go to my iCloud Drive. And where's my desktop? And there's those eCam settings, and you're going to see that it is a PDF. So when you save it as a PDF, it'll ask you where you want to save it to. It should ask you that every time. Does that help, Dale?
Need to go to it, but yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Another thing that works really well, particularly with Kindle, is you can email it to yourself, send yourself a copy, but don't send the email to anybody else. And then in Mail, you've got all the bells and whistles to save it as a PDF or open it in preview and save it as a PDF. And it just gives you a quick way to get your hands on a file that the program doesn't normally do files and all that extras with it.
Right.
And you can just highlight a passage and then email it to yourself. Then when you pull up the email, you can open it in Pages or open it in Preview and then play with it and save it as a PDF.
Okay. Yeah, a nice little trick way of doing that as well. So I actually just created a video. It's kind of funny. The iPad to me is getting to be more and more like the Mac, and I just did a video on the Files app and how it compares to the Finder. You wouldn't really think that they compare, but it's quite surprising at how similar they are. And we're starting to find these little tricks. You go to print, you can save it as a PDF, you can mail it. All these things that we can do on the Mac, not quite as prominent on the iPad, and you have to dig for them a little bit. But you're starting to see the similarities between them, and a lot of the things that we do on the Mac, we're starting to be able to do on the iPad. So, all right, let's call that a wrap. And I have the chat saved. I have my bookmark saved.
Where do I save the chats?
When you're looking at Zoom, what you're able to do when you look at the chat window, there's going to be 3 dots. If you're on a Mac, there's going to be 3 dots in the chat window, and that's the universal More. Then you'll see Save Chat. And then it'll save it probably to your Downloads folder. So.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Again, thank you for your support, everyone, and I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Mahalo.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Good meeting.
Thanks.